Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and federal litigator Vikas Bajaj. I watched the debate. I was up on the third level looking down on it, Vic, and I was watching the crowd react. And Brett made a good point earlier saying, you know, it was fascinating because there wasn't 5,000 people, so the crowd wasn't nearly as rowdy tonight. I just want your thoughts. We're going to talk about some of the legalities. I know you're going to put your lawyer hat on for us in a second, but I want to know what you thought overall of the debate and the scene and what you viewed tonight.
Well, I was very impressed in the sense that there was a lot of energy on the stage. To your point, Trace, and very great to point that out, there weren't hundreds and thousands of people cheering on with megaphones, so it's hard sometimes to keep the energy up. I thought all the candidates did that. That's the good. The bad for me is the way they did it. I just did not think that most of the people appreciate the attacks on the other candidates for the position. I thought the energy was good. I felt there was a bit too much negativity, frankly, but salient points were raised on a global level: wars, crime, etc.
Yeah, it's interesting because there were a couple of big points. They did a lot about China, more than we thought they were going to do. There was a lot of talk about the economy because, of course, it was on Fox Business, and so we expected that. And they did talk a lot about crime and education. And on crime, specifically, Ron DeSantis, this is number 13, Katie. Ron DeSantis on California crime. Watch this.
Just being in Southern California over the last couple days, my wife and I have met 3 people who have been mugged on the street, and that would have never happened 10 or 20 years ago. In Florida, we back the blue. We support the men and women of law enforcement. They are keeping us safe.
Almost like he's warming up for his debate with Gavin Newsome coming up in a couple of months. But he makes a very good point, because right now, Southern California, the crime is an issue, Vic, and we see this and we talk about this a lot.
Absolutely. And as a defense litigator throughout the state and the United States, I see where the rubber hits the road. And the amount of mental illness that leads to gratuitous instances of violence is tremendous. Now, what Governor DeSantis did here was so astutely bring it down to a level where everyone can relate to crime. Sometimes it's hard, Trace, to relate to funding Ukraine, whether that's a good idea or bad, or China and business there. That's a debatable issue for small business owners or large business owners. But when you talk about muggings that everyone reads about and knows about, and it is as common as Governor DeSantis says, it really strikes home.
It's interesting because you wonder, when you talk about strikes home, Vic, because you kind of listen to the candidates. We know that for the Biden administration, crime is an issue. People all over the country are looking at the crime stats in some of these blue cities, and they are going up, and people are kind of really put off by it. The economy is another issue that the polls are all against him. Chris Christie was talking about his record as a prosecutor in New Jersey, saying that, you know, he set records in New Jersey for prosecuting people. Is it a good tactic? Is that something that resonates with voters when you talk about a debate, thinking, you know, we want somebody who's going to back the blue, and we want somebody who's going to actually put some consequences on the table for those who commit crime?
Well, yes, absolutely. But to a point, I think backing the blue is a fantastic mantra to push out there. And a lot of voters sympathize with that. They understand that. They relate to that, especially in a world now, in a nation now, where defunding the police happened to be soup du jour a couple of years ago, and now many cities are feeling the effects of that negatively. Yes, that's a good thing. What I don't think a lot of people appreciate, however, is an overzealous prosecutor, either on the federal side, as Governor Christie was, or on the state side. And I think many times that bravado and name-calling, and I'm going to be the toughest person to lock everyone up, also alienates a significant amount of conservatives who would otherwise be on board with Governor Christie.
Yeah, and Nikki Haley was saying, and she said it a couple of times, is that we have to come out and support law enforcement. We have to, and even in the wake of defund the police, we've kind of gotten away from that. People are starting to refund police. Police departments are trying to get people back, Vic, but it's tough. I mean, you know, you look at from Los Angeles to every major city are having troubles hiring police officers, getting people, even with cash bonuses and you name it, because the police officers just don't feel like the politicians in their cities have their backs. And so this is going to be a problem for the next few years. And I think this is an effective campaign strategy for these people to go after.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt, Trace. And I think this is what strikes home with most of the undecided voters out there that had an opportunity to listen to this debate. To be a police officer, we've discussed this before, Trace, a number of times.
Yeah.
Usually it's a legacy employment position. You have a father, mother, aunt, uncle, grandfather who was in law enforcement, and that's a great thing for you to do because they did it well. But nowadays, with the pay that officers get and all the negative ramifications from lawsuits civilly to internal affairs investigations to actually being put on social media and your career and reputation completely eliminated vigorously, why would the juice ever be worth the squeeze when you're getting paid a third of what you could on really essentially a part-time technology job?
Listen, I just want to say it's the first time I've ever heard Vic Bajaj use the juice squeeze metaphor, but I think it works. Vic, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.